Hi all. Let's do another Visual Basic video. The main thing with this video will be number 2. It's just what they call an if-else statement. We only have 5 examples here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are all just variations on an if-else. Normally, you'll just see it like this. This is the main one that I wanted you to see. Okay, so before we get started, what we'll be doing in these videos is just covering some very basic beginner programming topics, things that everyone needs to know. Some programming books I've seen, they start off with really complicated topics, and it blows people out of the water before they even get started. Something that I've said for years is some programming books, you'll go through the first 100 pages and there's no code. There might only be a couple lines in the first 100 pages before they even get started. Maybe later on, after we get more examples behind us, maybe we'll pick a book and just kind of go through it. But for now, I've got a bunch of examples that I've used in class for years that I'd like to go through in these videos. And that should cover most of the main topics. Where a book would come in is it would be hard to cover every little topic that you might bump into. But once you get your feet wet a little bit with this stuff, then those things will start making sense. So, when I first got into Visual Basic, late 90s or so, I think version 5 had just went out and version 6 was getting popular. And version 6 was really cool. That's when Visual Basic really started to get powerful. And it was still easy to learn. Now, I would say it's almost childlike as compared to the code that we look at these days. I wouldn't really bother to go back and learn VB6. You can still buy it on eBay. But like my examples, I'm keeping them real simple. That's more or less a VB6. It's just things going around in the behind the scenes. That's where it gets more complicated. Years ago, though, I used to tell people, go back and get the earlier version. It's a lot easier to get started with, and then move up to the newest version as soon as you can. But I wouldn't recommend that now. It would be too much of a change, and why spend the money? Visual Basic today is a lot like C# and Java. I heard years ago that Visual Basic is just as powerful as C#. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started with these. So we're basically going over if-else statement. The first example, though, only has a if. There's no else to it. So let's run it and see what it does. Okay, so I have this set up as a GUI. We have to do it with a form. So we'll start a new project. Windows form application. This is our form. We'll just throw one button on it. We're going to need a text box. And then click on the button to create the function. Hopefully you follow me so far. We've gone over all that in the previous videos. Okay, so here we're going to create an integer. So create an integer named num1. Create it as an integer. Store 10 in num1. And then when we click the button, it'll read the if statement. And then it says, if num1 is equal to 10, then do this. So num1 is equal to 10. So it puts this text inside of our text box. Let's go ahead and run it so you can see what it does. Okay, so inside the function, that's our button click function. We create the integer, make it equal to 10, and then down here, this part here, this is a check because it's inside of an if statement. Is this true? If this is true, then do this. Okay? This is a little confusing because that looks the same as that. But up here, we're just setting the value. And then down here, we're doing a check. So let's go ahead and compile it. It succeeded. Let's run it. Press the button. So num1 is equal to 10. So it put that text inside of the text box. Okay, so let's change this. So now num1 is equal to 100. We have to recompile. And then we run it again. Okay, so this time that's false. So we didn't get any text here because we only have an if statement. Okay, it just is num1 equal to 10? No. So it skipped this whole part here and just came down here and finished the application. So these if statements is just asking a question. Is num1 equal to 10? It's kind of like an artificial intelligence thing. It asks a question. Okay, Number 2 is the same thing, but we added this else statement. Okay, so here we create the integer, create num1, make it an integer, set num1 equal to 10, and then we have this if-else statement. Okay, so there's a couple parts here I want you to notice. This starts it, this ends it, and then there's this middle part, and then we have a then here. Okay, so if num1 is equal to 10, then do this. If this is false, if this check here is false, it skims past this and does the else. So it puts number is not 10 into the text box. And then this ends the if statement. So let's go ahead and run this. You can see what it does. We have to recompile. Then we run it. Click the button, and it puts number is 10. So here we go, make an integer called num1, make num1 equal to 10, and then we come down here to the if-else statement, and we say, is num1 equal to 10? Yes. Then do this. Put number is 10 inside the text box. Okay? So don't really worry about memorizing these things. You know, definitely study them, but just try to understand it. Don't worry so much about trying to memorize if, then, else, and all this other stuff. You know, that would be good if you could, but it might bog you down. It might overwhelm you right now. So just try to understand it. Just for the sake of the video, we'll make num1 equal to 100. We'll recompile. It succeeded. Then we'll run it. Press the button. So now it says number is not 10. So we created num1 as an integer, set num1 equal to 100. Then we came down here and did the if-else statement. And we said, if num1 is equal to 10, then do this. Okay, so this num1 equal to 10 is false. So it skips this, and it does the else. And it says, number is not 10. So it puts that text inside of our text box. That's how we get this here. And then it hits the end here. Okay? So that's probably the most common one that you'll see. Just asking a simple question. Is this true? If that's not true, do this part. Sometimes you have multiple things that you want to ask. Is it number 10? Is it number 9? Is it number 8? You know? That's where the else if comes in. So this part's the same. This part is the same. And then we added this part. So here we say is num equal to 10. If that's true, do this part. And then we say is num1 equal to 7. Then do this part. If that's false and that's false, then the else will catch it. And it will say number is not 7 or 10. So let's run it and we'll see what this does. When you paste these in, make sure you don't mess up the end sub. The end sub goes with the sub here, and the end class goes with the class here. We'll go over more of that stuff later, but for now I just want you to get used to looking at some easy code. Okay, so we have num1 is equal to 1. We'll recompile. Then we'll run it. Press the button. And it says number is not 7 or 10. Because it's 1. Num1 is set to 1. So let's go ahead and play around with this. We'll say num1 is 7. Recompile. Then we'll run it. Press the button. So now it says number is 7. Okay, so just to walk through this, we created num1 as an integer, set num1 to 7, then it does the if else, and it says is num1 equal to 10? No, so it skips this. Then it comes down to the else if, and it says is num1 equal to 7? Well, yes, so this part is true. So it does this here. It puts number is 7 into the text box. And then it just skips this and ends the application. Okay. So next we'll do 4. Four is just a variation of the if. You can have as many ifs as you want. If this, if this, if this, if this, you know. This is just a technique where you might see it like this. That's why I thought I'd bring it up. In most of the other programming languages, you'll normally see the double equal sign as a test. Here, you'll see 2 equal signs. That's how you can make a distinction between setting a value and doing a test. You know, is this true? Is num1 equal to 0? But in Visual Basic, they only use 1. So I only brought that up because if you look at code in some other books, or you've got some friends taking other classes, you might bump into that. That's a common mistake. You meant to put this, but you only have 1. So I'm really surprised that this works like that in Visual Basic. You'd think they'd have this set as a double equal sign. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it easier And I've noticed some other things too where they're trying to make it easier, but they're actually making it harder, because most people these days, know more than one language. So going from like C# or Java to Visual Basic, these things, they can really mess up your code if you don't get them right. So, okay, so let's go ahead and run this, and we'll see what it does. Compile, and then we'll run it. So it says number is 3. So here we create num1 as an integer, set num1 equal to 3, then it does the first if. It says, is num1 equal to 0? No. So it skips this. Then it comes down here, it says, is num1 equal to 1? No. So it skips this. And then it says, is num1 equal to 2? No. So it skips this. Then it comes down here, it says, is num1 equal to 3? Yes. Then do this. Put number is 3 inside of your text box. And that's how we get number is 3 here. Let's see if this will work here. No, see, it's coming up as it's coming up as an error. See how it's getting those little red marks there? That means there's an error. So. Okay. And then this one is not equal. When you have two angle brackets like that here, that means not equal. Visual Basic is the only one that I know of that uses that. So it's kind of odd. But just to run through this, we'll say create num1 as an integer, set num1 to 1, and then we do our if statement. If num1 is not equal to 2, then do this. Okay, so let's run this and we'll see what it does. Okay, so it says number is not 2. So here we create num1 as an integer, set num1 to 1, then we do the if statement. If num1 is not equal to 2, so this part right here, that's our test. Num1 is not equal to 2. Then do this part. So num1 is not equal to 2. Up here we set it to 1. So it did this line. It put number is not 2 inside of our text box. This type of thing, that's like a reverse logic. You're kind of thinking backwards. And that's actually pretty common in programming. It makes it a little harder to think about what you're doing, but the reason why they do that is that it saves code. If you were going to program things straightforward, like this, sometimes it may be a whole paragraph, but if you put it into this type of thing, a reverse logic type thing, you can do it in just a couple sentences. So that's more of a style thing, but I just thought I'd throw it in here because you might bump into that. Okay, so hopefully you followed me on this video. Don't let it mess you up though if I did lose you. Okay, main thing would be that one here. If you understand this, you're doing great. Okay, if num1 is equal to 10, do this line. If it's not equal to 10, then do the else. It's just a simple if-else statement. Okay, and like I said earlier, don't worry about memorizing these things. Just try to get a basic understanding of what's going on here. The more you look at these, it'll become easier to read. Don't let it scare you away. It's going to take a while to learn. You don't learn it in a week. You don't learn it in a month. Just like a doctor, it takes years to study on those things. So. Okay, see ya. Bye.